Ooh, well that's interesting. Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. It's time for that weekly mod collection demo shop update. Let's see what they've got in store for us this week. And we're kicking it off with a 57 Custom. So typically 57 Customs are done up in the ebony finish. You've got the option between 2 humbuckers and 3, but they are mahogany tops. But what makes this one kind of interesting is the fact that we have this white finish. And then we've got all the historic appointments like the ABR1 bridge, long neck tenon, our nice bonnet style knobs. But where this one really gets interesting is our side profile shot. I love the fact that they uploaded this particular angle. It's what I'm always looking for on a lot of these mod collection guitars. It appears to be a red finish on the side. There is actually a very rare color called tuxedo, or at least that's what I had called them, back in the 70s, where it's a white top and a black back and sides. So this kind of gives me those vibes, because by the time you get to the back, it's all white here. It's a humorous situation if somebody clicked through these photos really quickly, and then when the guitar arrives, they didn't realize it was going to have a cherry side. That'd be a funny surprise. But the description calls it brown sides, so maybe they're going for like dark back vibes. But that's sold at $6,800. Next up, a very interesting custom. This one's called Borealis Blue Sparkle. And I like it. It appears to be like a black custom that they have almost a tribal-like design going on with it. Check out my Les Paul Tribal review and demo over here if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about. But it might actually just be a really dark blue all over, and the fact that they say sparkle, we can see some sparkle flakes right here, so I'm not sure if it's just in the streaks or if it's the whole finish. I questioned the clear pick guard, but I bet it's probably there just because it already had the holes. But we've got a regular Nashville style bridge, so that means it is a normal Les Paul custom, not a specific year reissue. And if we check out the back, it appears to be black. But now this thing, I was really tempted to pick it up. Now it's advertised as a 57 Les Paul Custom again, and that got me really excited because those things are expensive. And we've got triple P90s in it. I've actually reviewed a very similar guitar to this a long time ago. I nicknamed it the Queen of Clean because it just sounded fantastic clean. And again, it's white, the back is all white, we don't have any color mixing here. This is how far I got on the checkout page. Even with tax included, I thought, okay, that's not too bad of a price. I do want to document it. But I lingered a little bit and I read some more of the description, and it said modifications consist of an Alpine white finish, trapezoid fretboard inlays. Sure enough, I click on it and actually look at it. Yeah, that's got Les Paul standard trapezoid inlays, except for their real mother of pearl instead of the pearloid material. And you do not have one at the first fret because that's how standards are usually laid out. But it's a custom, so that made me lean more towards, okay, yes, I do need to buy it. But then I kept reading and it said gold Tune-O-Matic bridge is a modification? A 57 reissue should have the historically superior ABR1 bridge, and it's listed as a maple top. And the tuners aren't right for a 57 either. So I think this is actually just meant to be a regular Les Paul custom, so it wasn't quite the deal that I thought it was, but it was just a minor $100 premium to get completely different pickup configuration and a custom fretboard. This had to have been a made to measure that got some sort of a blemish, so they had to remake it. That thing was cool. But no, it wasn't me who bought it. But check this SG out. It's a regular Gibson USA Standard 61. They called it Harpy Ash Burst. It's kind of got Silverburst vibes going on for it, except for the whole top is silver and then just the edges were kind of sprayed this black. Mix that with the chrome hardware, it works incredibly well, especially the sideways vibrola on it. It kind of reminds me of the 70s Tribute SG from the 2010s era, except for instead of mini humbuckers, we've got all our regular stuff and it's a bit more blinged out. The back was left black, kind of cool for a small premium. But then Ruthless Red Burst reminds me of the evil one they did last week. Kind of like a Slash Vermilion, but slightly different as far as having gold hardware and looks like historic style knobs. But do you guys see what I see? That's gonna make me so happy if they're actually bringing those things back. So it's the Gibson branded Schaller tuners from the 70s and 80s, which have stood the test of time, but with the Schaller tips on them, kind of like what they're using on the Adam Jones standards. However, don't get your hopes up because Gibson still occasionally uses that on really high-end arch tops, but it could be a good sign for the future. And over here, we've got a custom shop SG in pink satin gown. That really is a good way to put it. It's one of those ones where they strip back the complete cherry finish and they redo it, but yet it still leaves some of the pore filler in that cherry color, and then you've got all of the rest of your aged hardware, and that was a complete refinish. I kind of like that one. Out of all the weird SGs that have been done up like this, I would say it's between this one and that green and red one. But they also had a studio done up in Peritwinkle satin. I definitely like that color. It's bright, but grungy at the same time with all the black. but that is a satin finish. And it was a full-on refinish. And wow, that thing is old, from 2013. It sat around for a decade before meeting new life. And it looks like it's got a case, and it's already found a new home. And check this out, another gilded finish, this time in Pelham top. It's one of the 50 standards, so that means we got P90 pickups. But previously, whenever we talk about gilded, it kind of turns colors into a gold, depending on the angle that you're looking at it in. I'm not sure if that's the case on this one or not, because I'm really not seeing it in the provided photos, not even in the up-close shot. And it's not like it's a gold back and side to make up for that part. It's just natural. But wow, that's kind of a premium on that. 500 extra. And to wrap things up, we got a couple of 335s here, starting with Royal Berry Flame on one of the figured models. Kind of reminds me of the Chicago Blue or Beale Street Blue that they've done in the past. That's a pretty sharp looking one. I'd say the back looks even better than the front as far as our flame figurine goes, but then you got their natural neck and a regular looking headstock. And our last one is called Pitch Black Sparkle. Stock photos don't do it much justice, but with that name, I would imagine there's some sparkly twinkly winklies in here. And maybe on the back? I don't know, too hard to tell. But it's got a matching headstock, even if that's the color that they normally are. Man, not even in this photo can I see the sparkles. If somebody buys this, you'll have to send me some photos. So a pretty decent week overall. Now let's check out the USA side demo shop. We had at least one custom color and a whole bunch of players grade stuff. But the custom color was named Mountain Gold. It was one of those Explorer customs. You can check out the review and documentation of one right here. But it's a gold top, but more of a bronzy gold top. Since these are only officially offered in black, it's always nice to see the custom colors that the demo shop and mod collection create. So this one still has the black back and sides yet. There's a 60 standard Bourbon Burst. I like this one because it had a lot of vertical wood grain, but yet you can still see it has a little bit of a flame effect going on. Kind of reminds me of a spruce top almost. And this classic and translucent cherry, something about this top just spoke to me. When you really zoom in here and take it all in, there's a lot of wood grain to appreciate. But whoa, what's that on the headstock? For a second, I thought that was a Scully from a Slash model. Is that a knot in the wood? What is that? That's kind of interesting. But speaking of Slash models, here's a Victoria. You could save yourself a little over $600 here, as long as you can live with this. You can see the seam line on the back. Now that looks like a perfect angle where you have to see it. It's not going to be ever present. But then they also had a 68 reissue custom. You don't always see those in the demo shop. There was a lefty 60 reissue. It's got some flames with grain, as with everything else we saw, but doesn't the clear coat look extra aged on this one? Normally they're not that yellow. And then once you see it on the headstock, you can tell, yeah, that's really yellowed over top, even the Cherry Sunburst finish. But it appears to have made it in the demo shop because of a couple of small dings and a router mishap back here. And here's just a regular 58 reissue, kind of like that standard we had just talked about. It's plain, but beautiful. That's the best thing about R8s, when you just get a regular one. Because just because it looks plain in photos, in person, there is still a light dancing effect to the wood. I'd be willing to bet that is a little bit more fancy than it's coming across. But there you go, here's a good reference point of how yellow they usually are. And then as far as the offerings that sold quickly, you had this style Flying V with a tortoiseshell guard. In my opinion, doesn't really jive, but you can always change that if you don't like it. They had a 70s Explorer. I mean, you can see right here, they're $2,500 brand new now, so $18.99 seems like a deal. But look at that! We had just reviewed the standard 50s P90 model, and when I took off the pickup covers and saw the black bobbins underneath, I said, somebody needs to put black plastics on one of these. So here's the demo shop proving me right. That is crazy how much that transforms the look. Now they also slapped a Bigsby on here and gave it a tortoiseshell guard, but that's just such an incredibly dark border. Like, that is way darker than usual. Maybe that's why it got sent to the mod collection. That's more of a vintage Sunburst rather than tobacco. Kind of wish they would have continued it onto the back, but whatever. And then lastly, they had a 70s Deluxe that they played with by giving it chrome-covered P90s and a similar pickguard as that last one. We got some witch hat knobs and apparently moto backplates. Flipping over to the European side of things, they had a few standout models again. First off, we had a 2015 Les Paul Special. One of them wraparound double cuts with binding. Just gotta remember you got your Les Paul 100 silkscreen and your titanium nut and P90S pickups. So if you ever read the spec sheet on these things and read it as P90s pickups, no, it's P90S. You can tell the difference because you don't have adjustable pole pieces. These are slug coils in them. Here was a modified 50 standard. I just thought it had a nice top, but then they put the 70s Flying V/Explorer pickups in here without any pole pieces exposed. Definitely gives it an interesting vibe with the gold hardware and the red finish. And then for $5,500, hey, we've got another Theodore. I think they're just clearing out their show space in the Netherlands. That's probably why we're seeing all these Theos. We might have one more. I forget what color we haven't seen. I believe it's natural though. So you can live with demo on the headstock. For this market, that's a pretty alright deal. They had one of the signed Dave Mustaine songwriters. These are kind of interesting acoustics, 24 frets. For me, I just wasn't really all that crazy about it, but I don't play acoustic a lot. But I will say it's an interesting flat top. It's got a lot going for it as far as crazy specs, so who knows, maybe I do need to pick one of these things up. It's just acoustic reviews don't tend to do that well on my show. We like electrics. So this is a Les Plus, which is a 2015 model. Basically, it's a thin line Les Paul, not thin line like a 335, but kind of like a custom light where the body has been significantly reduced, but it's got 2015 specs, so you have to like that to buy one of these. Then wow, that's actually kind of big news. Is this the first refinish we've seen from the European demo shop? It's a satin gold top, but they only did it on the top and they replaced the bridge pickup with a mini humbucker. Seems like they're slowly making ways to being just as functional as the USA side. But let's face it, the USA side probably has a lot more guitars to work through, so I'm kind of surprised they even bother reworking any of these. I thought this was a pretty good price. $43.50 in the EU market, triple pickup Les Paul custom, $63 reissue. All looks pretty good to me. This one I feel was modded just for the sake of modding it. We've got blue pickup rings. Okay, we've got a single piece knob. All right. Truss rod covers upside down just for fun. We got Les Paul Junior style tuners. It's kind of a mess, but it's got quirkiness. And then I was surprised to see another one of these Americana series Ranger guitars. So about 3 weeks ago, it was the first time I had ever seen one of these. It's a solid body acoustic guitar. It's got the old style Gibson logo. Just a weird thing from 2005. And then lastly, they slapped a Bigsby on this Les Paul Jr. That is definitely the most modified guitars we've seen out of the EU demo shop. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed this week's recap. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.